Hi YouTube, this is Darkon633 back with another Transformers review. This time we're going to take a look at the Transformers Generations Titan Returns Deluxe class Topspin with his Titan Master Frieza, which is a pretty interesting name for a Titan Master. Now this is actually a very interesting character to be released in the Generations line for a couple of reasons. The first one is the fact that I actually have the G1 toy, since I actually got that particular toy at a yard sale at my local church a little while back when I was actually somewhere in the middle of high school. So I actually had that toy for the longest time. It still doesn't have a weapon, which we'll actually do a quick comparison in a minute. But it's nice to actually have an updated version of the character, since it actually has somewhat of a sentimental value for me, even if obviously I wasn't alive when these particular toys were released out in the first place. But anyways, we're going to take a look at the box. The box has a picture of his little plane mode. It's a very interesting looking design. It has a picture of Frieza out up there. Same picture as seen on the side there. And he transfers in 18 steps with another look at Topspin. So it's pretty cool actually. Now we're going to take a look at the figure. First, here's the character card as normal. It's another really interesting design which we see for the character. And as stated earlier, here he is next to the G1 toy. Now, unlike some of the other G1 toys, this is a drastic difference, since this particular figure was actually released in the Jump Starters along with Twin Twist. And basically what it is that you roll it, and then it transforms on its own. But sometimes it doesn't like to do it properly. You need to kind of move it back really far before it can actually transform. But it does have problems actually transforming, so there you go. So anyways, we're going to take a look at Topspin more specifically now. Articulation-wise, the head is on a standard ball joint, as we've seen with the other Titan Master releases. The wings are somewhat articulated, but to be honest, that's not really an articulation point in my opinion, at least in robot mode. He does have ball-jointed shoulders with a double hinge as well. He does have a swivel at the biceps. Double joints at the elbows, technically, since it does have the whole joint with transformation, so that's really nice. It does kind of hand pivot, but that's really towards transformation, and you do need to open up the panel before you can do that. He actually has a waist joint, which is actually really nice. He has ball joints at the hips, a single knee joint, swivels at the thighs, and feet can pivot a bit due to transformation, but that's all you're going to get for articulation-wise. He actually looks really nice, and I think Hasbro did a fantastic job in the coloring altogether. So anyways, we're going to take a look at his Titan Master. Here is Frieza. So that's pretty cool. And now, we're just going to look at his weapons, which I think they can actually combine, but I haven't been able to kind of secure that combination. Oh, let's see. I was actually supposed to turn it like this. So it looks something like this, so that's cool that you can actually do that. So anyways, we're now going to take a look at his transformation. His transformation is that you collapse the hands. And actually, you do need to collapse it in two ways, which is kind of interesting, since usually when it comes to the transformations where you collapse something, you usually only collapses once. But for this particular transfer, you actually need to collapse it twice. One with the hand, and one with the actual elbow itself. So that's pretty interesting that you actually need to do that. This part can be a little bit tricky, since you do need to move a couple of parts in order to fully transform it. This thing does get in the way when you actually transfer it into vehicle mode, and sometimes in the robot as well, so be wary with that. Spin around 360. Open up the panels. There's a lot of areas that you just open up panels for most of his transformation. And then we're going to collapse the feet, so it looks like this. And these will actually peg together after we collapse the feet. So first, this is a very Combiner Wars-esque kind of transformation where you're actually collapsing a part of the limb into the leg gaps. So that's pretty cool actually. We're actually going to peg these together, and they snap together, so it looks like this. Next, what we're going to do is pull this down, so that now we got it freed. And we're just going to turn this back, since it's a little easier to turn it this way now. It's a little bit tricky because the joint gets kind of stuck on the chest there. And now, we almost got it fully in vehicle mode. We're going to collapse these, and from here, what's going to happen is that this little gap will actually peg onto the area down here. So, make sure that you're actually facing the actual pieces like this, since we'll have the most clearance. Actually, no, I take that back. You actually transform it the other way, since you actually want these pieces to face outward. So, using the double joint, we're just going to peg it in like that. We're going to do the same for the other side. Does have some minor clearance issues, but it's passable. And now, to finish off the transformation, what we're going to do is plug this down. And now we have Topspin in his jet mode. Now that we got a better look at Topspin in his jet mode, this is actually a really nice design. I think Hasbro did a fantastic job in updating the design to the generation scale. The original toy had a lot of imagination needed. There isn't a whole lot of parts that make it look like a kind of realistic vehicle, even for a Cybertronian vehicle, since most of the limbs are still out in the open. But I can understand what they were trying to do, since it was a gimmicky figure. Luckily, that's not what happens with the Generations release. You can open the cockpit, which is another nice thing about Titan Returns, since they have a lot of ways that you can just store the Titan Master inside. And from here, what you're going to do is just take the Titan Master, make sure that the hands are facing forward. This is another one of those Transformers that you do need to remove the limbs of the Titan Master in order for it to fit. And then it's going to actually peg in down there. So once you get that all together, you can collapse the canopy, and there you have Topspin in his vehicle mode with Titan Master inside. There's several areas where you can actually store the weapons if you wish to. I'm just going to plug them up here, since I think that's the easiest place to plug them. And there we have him fully armed up. So I'm just really happy to finally get a hold of a newer version of this particular character, since I really like the design of the character overall. Especially since this is a character that has been a prominent character in both the IDW and the original Marvel Comics. So it's really nice to see an update of the character. He actually has one landing gear for it, I could tell. I don't think there's any other points of landing gear, but it does have the standard landing gear on the front. So at least it has the ability to do that. Even if you don't have the landing gear, because of the way that it's designed, it will still kind of float up just a bit. So, overall, I think this is a fantastic release. In conclusion, I think it's fantastic to see an update to the Autobot Warrior from the comics, especially since he is one of the well-known wreckers in the overall team, along with his brother, per se, Twin Twist, which will be released later in the Titan Returns line down the line too, so it's really nice to see both of these particular Autobots being released in an updated version. Now, I actually do not have a G1 Twin Twist, but it is nice to still get an updated version of these two characters, and I cannot wait to finally actually get the Twin Twist in hand. I think, just looking at it, it's going to be very close to what we see here, but that makes a lot of sense since they had very similar body sculpts even back in G1. So, I highly recommend picking up this release, even if you're not that fan of a character, since it does look really nice, and outside of the Titan Returns figures and the last couple waves, I think this is a really fantastic release, and it may end up becoming one of my most favorite Deluxe class figures overall in Titan's Returns. I got this at BBTS along with the previously reviewed Perceptor, and both figures are actually fantastic in their own merits, so I highly recommend picking up both of these figures if you can. Anyways, please comment and subscribe, and check out Hero Club and Hero Taku. Also check out Twitter under Darkon633, and don't forget to check down the other channels down below. Please check the little bell at the bottom of the screen, and you'll see my content go up as soon as possible. I'm back with more Transformers reviews, but for now, I'll be seeing you later, YouTube. Bye.